How are you?
Let's put it this way. I just saw a funny little meme with a guy pushing a wheelbarrow up a hill, and the wheelbarrow falls back on him, dirt and all. I'm like, yep, that fits.
Oh, I would have to 100% agree with that today.
Okay,
Oh,
let me do our little introduction, and then we'll get going. So this is Sue with Get Sold, and you must know by now who my amazing guest is, Twyla. So we don't have an agenda to talk about today. We're just gonna let it rip, and I keep getting the sun on my face, so that's what's going on over here. Usually I shut the shade, but I want the sun in, so okay. So here we are.
hi.
Hi.
I like this sun. I think it looks magical. It's
Oh
like,
yay.
yeah, it's very like Morticia Adams, just the eyes.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
sauté.
Yay. So really, through these March energies, how are you doing?
Oh man, what a roller coaster. Wow. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
what would
it's
you like
like,
to share?
oh, okay. So I want to share with everyone a story, an experience I recently had that really affected me, we'll say. So hashtag story time, I guess. Um, so I have a family friend who is very, very religious, kind of to the point where there's like no acceptance for anybody who doesn't believe or feel the same way that they do.
Yep.
And I had the lovely privilege of being sent, we'll call it a propaganda video. It was like a 10-minute video. And the gist of it was that anyone who is a psychic medium or does anything with spiritualism or uses tarot cards is essentially the devil and a demon and full of just hate and bitterness and all that stuff and should be stoned to death.
Oh, are we going back to medieval times? What?
Yeah. So essentially, this family friend sent me this video so that I would know my mistakes because, in their eyes, I should be stoned to death for essentially just being who and what I am.
That's wow. I didn't think there were still people like that. Boy, am I naive.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I have to be honest.
I mean, I know in other countries they're still battling with catching up with the times with what women are allowed to do, not allowed to do, and all that other stuff. Like I know it's over there, but wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I have to tell you, I felt a lot of emotions, and I was very triggered by the event. And I'm not going to say that I was the nicest being about it. I was very polite in my response was please don't send me videos like this. And then I have this thing where I don't know what happens, but this switch gets like flicked in me. And we'll call it a petty switch. I know it's not my best personality trait. And so I kindly asked him to please not send me videos like this, but do tell me when my stoning is so I won't be late.
I'm sorry, but that was deserved.
um, and it gets even better.
Oh no.
So after this message, I hadn't quite blocked this person because they have been in my life since, I mean, they were there when he was the best man at my parents' wedding. So this man has been in my life for the 32 years that I have been in this human experience. And I grew up Jewish. And he told me that everything in this video came from our text, which Leviticus is not in our text
Wow.
at all. We don't have that in our text. We're generally taught to do mitzvahs, which is doing a good deed. Always do the good deed even if it's an inconvenience or a hardship to do for you, you still have to do the good deed, right?
Okay.
And that's called a mitzvah. That's what we are pretty much raised on, um, and taught to do, is to do mitzvahs, help those in need, make the right decision, choose the higher ground, be the lighter person, and combat that darkness with whatever lightness we can and whatever kindness we can.
Which is very similar to the mantra of Jesus. I mean,
Yeah,
let's face it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so at this point, after he sent me that other message, I had to completely block him. And I had to share this with my family and let them know. And what really gets me is they are also a member of my community, the LGBTQ. And I just thought to myself, it was a really hard epiphany to have, that this is the stuff of hate and discrimination and okaying genocide based on specific beliefs. And that's the things that we're going to face coming up in the future.
Yes.
And that epiphany was really hard for me. It was really hard for my husband, for my family, to just be like, this is just a thing that is accepted. I am supposed to accept this hate and belief that I should essentially be executed for simply trying to exist. And so it kind of set me on this rabbit hole of thinking about, humans and how we are the human race, right? So that means we're all one. And how can I help change that or raise that frequency? And it was really hard because I heard that's a fight. That's a
Only,
fight.
only if you choose it, because when you're talking, it reminds me of in the things I'm thinking of that I remember or know of are all the lifetimes that we had of healing people through herbs, through what they would call magic, but we would call energy, using energy to heal. And we were murdered for that. We were called witches. We were called anything and everything, which is exactly the same mindset as what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
We did good for people because of someone's ignorance who doesn't understand how the rest of the universe works. Like they have this one little pinhole view, and if you don't fit in
Yes.
the pinhole view, then you need to go away. You need not to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you have to ask yourself, is this person playing a role for those out there to mirror and bring that up and say, okay, how can, in your case, you're saying, how can I do a better job? Essentially understanding that this isn't correct, this isn't right, having grace to say, please don't send me any of this stuff. But what you said was pretty hurtful. um so it's almost like, I don't know, asking, was this person truly ignorant, or is this person playing a role so that with each person he addresses this with, it's meant to bring up stuff to either reiterate where you are spiritually, or go, oh, wow, I got this little piece to clean up, or I got that little piece to clean up. So,
Yeah. So in going, with, just being a conscious observer, and I did have to be reminded by a friend of ours that there's probably a reason this is coming up right now, and that there's probably something that has to balance out. And, in past lives, I probably did this to that person. And I was really upset with myself for um, doing that in the past, but also very grateful to learn how I made that person feel in a past life.
yep.
And it was a very interesting learning experience, I have to say. It was very humbling.
Yeah, that's essentially what I had gone through with the shadow work with Ingrid, where and we've talked about this with anything to do with children, anything to do with hurting people. It's like we've all done it. We've all done it. So even though you had to feel and I've had to feel, the very things that we've done to others, we know that in our soul and our soul's purpose, the way I looked at it is this: the people who had to do the worst stuff are usually the most ascended, because who else could do it and come out of it in one piece, right? I
Yep.
mean, when we've talked to our friend Ingrid, and she told me about so many of her lifetimes where she was, executioner, and she was this and that. And it's like, wow. I mean, to have a lifetime where you get peace is like, oh, because somebody has to do it. That's the game.
Yeah.
That's how we all ascend, is by going through these trials and tribulations and such. So it's a victory in a sense that you were able to look at that the right way, because somebody less evolved, less spiritual, and that doesn't mean I don't say that with any judgment or any somebody's better than another, but learnedness rather, is that you could have gone down a dark road with that. You certainly could have been combative, you could have been vindictive, you could have been, but you chose the high road to look at it as a mirror and say, what does this mean to me? Why is this being shown to me? So that's fantastic. I mean, I know it sounds weird. It's like going through this uncomfortable thing, but that's how I've learned to see it now, is like score one for Twyla because, you cleared something else off your plate.
Yeah. But it was such a humbling experience and also such a learning experience that like to really understand and see how it all like comes full circle and then it's
Yep.
clear
Yep. Yep.
was really interesting. I just thought it was very interesting and I
Yeah.
am as as silly as it sounds, I am grateful for that experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because now you're
Yeah.
a notch higher on, now when other people struggle with this, it's like, okay, now you got another like little degree under your belt to go, okay, yeah, I get how this goes, and now I can help somebody else with it. Because like you said, where we're going with our humanity, it's going to be like popcorn. And if someone isn't in a group or, found their tribe or whatever, it's going to be a scary road. It's going to be because they're going, like you said, people are going to start getting combative and they're not going to understand why. And the more of us that can get out there and explain this process, then at least they can take a moment to breathe, stop, don't react, go inside, think about it. And even if
Yeah.
they don't understand the karmic reflection of it, at least they can take a moment. Don't react. Don't, it's the hardest thing not to do, but it's the most rewarding when you don't, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, what a interesting way to learn to be a passenger of your vehicle that is called your human experience. And I
Yeah.
thought that was so interesting. And it was just like a whole bunch of stuff that really like made a full circle and made a lot of sense and really resonated. And it was like, oh wow. Oh wow. Okay.
Those are
Learning to
your
step back.
Yep. And
Okay.
when you know that even though you already have a lot of gifts, for those who haven't found some of their own gifts, the more of these little victories you have, the more you clear space for the good stuff to come in, like the mediumship or whatever gifts people want to have that connect them more with source. So we're not the evil ones, we're not the demons, we're not we're the ones connecting to source, and we're uninverting our world. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really beautiful. Wow.
Yeah,
Because
it was something.
if it wasn't you and it was somebody else, that could have gone very badly with just fighting back with, why do I deserve to be stoned? What about you? Who are you? You're not God. You're not, even though we're all bits of God, but it's, the judgment thing that we have
Yeah,
to look at.
and that was super prevalent in it too, because I thought to myself, well, who am I to judge? And then who are they to judge?
Yep. Yep.
It was just like, wow, maybe I should try to stop judging things, persons, places, things, and just be neutral.
Yep. That's what that was burned into my brain. The point of all of this is to become 0 point neutral. But until you do shadow work and you understand the mechanics of shadow work, it's hard for the average person to do. I mean, they can just say, well, I don't want controversy, I'm going to walk away. But maybe they didn't balance that karma at that moment. And it's going to show again later on. And maybe it'll show four more times, and the fifth time they'll finally blow because our stuff is not going to go away until we address it. But the good thing is, from what I understand with the March energies and these energies coming in, it's making it quicker and easier for us to just get rid of it, feel the discomfort and then get rid of it. So,
Yeah.
wow, that's
Yeah.
great, great story. I'm so happy you shared that because
Thank
it's a
you.
good it's another one of those nuggets that we can all learn from. I know for me, there was two things, life events that happened for me that literally like knocked me on my butt. And one was getting my teeth knocked out, and the other was being threatened with a lawsuit for something that did not happen. And I'll tell you that one in a minute. But when I got knocked in the teeth for years, I was angry, until I did my shadow work. And then it was like, Ingrid saying, well, what did you do to him? And in that moment, after years and years, like probably 16 years of being angry, of having my teeth altered, my teeth, not the way they were, the minute I realized I didn't have to know the details of what I did to him. I didn't have to know whether I tortured him, whether I didn't have to know that. I understood enough about shadow work to know that, holy crap, I must have done something really bad for him to turn around and do this to me. And in that instant, it was gone. No more anger. It's just a story, but there's no emotion to it anymore because I realized I balanced it.
Wow.
In that second, when she said that to me, well, you were pretty mean to him. I was like, and it was almost just like, oh, dang, But it went away instantly. I had no more anger. I had no more resentment. I had no more, none of it. Like it was gone. So if we can learn to do that, like, what you did with this situation, we get to get rid of a lot of baggage and make room for
Yeah.
more good stuff. There was
Yeah.
one other story I'll share briefly where years back in 2014, I was trying to get help for my trauma, and my therapist was going to do an EMDR type of therapy with me before she went to another location. I keep getting abandoned by these people now. And at the time, what was happening was somebody was stalking us and our property, and this person was a ne'er-do-well. I knew her for many, many years. She worked with my mother. My mother worked with her mother, but she was always renting places, destroying them until finally she couldn't rent anymore because all the landlords knew she was, not going to pay and she was going to destroy things and whatever. And I would always hear her in the back of like she would have a friend call me because we have apartments, and I always knew when it was her. And I was like, I know what I'm in for. So I just have to, not call back or whatever. And so it's like after a while, she must have wanted to get back at me or something. So she planned this whole thing where her and a friend they were harassing my pup, this guy. They were harassing
Oh,
him for a good solid year behind our yard. And we live next to a soup kitchen, so there's always people coming and going. He would bark, but we were thinking, well, he's just, maintaining his territory back there. No, a friend of my daughter's came up and said, no, they're harassing him back there. They're sticking their fingers in there. And when I caught a guy going back there and he's like, at my dog, and I'm like, get out. Finally, we had to put up a solid fence, but the damage was done. But she was the one spearheading it because she wanted him to be aggressive. He's not an aggressive dog. He's just one of those lovers, not a fighters. That was one of the reasons why he was potentially a bait dog, how we got him. So, because he's not a fighter. So, anyways, fast forward, she set something up where we were on the porch and he was with us, the pup. And she comes up and she starts harassing him. She bypasses us, not even talking to us, comes right up to the porch, starts yakking at him, yelling at him. Well, he knew who she was from in
oh
the
my.
back. So he started barking at her, but he didn't go after her because, we've got a railing between us and her. But she just comes up and she starts doing all this, and I grab him and I'm, shuffling him off to go in the house. And she's like walking up the stairs, and I'm like, to the other two on the porch, could you help me here? But I held him the whole time. Later on, a few minutes later, she goes next door to the soup kitchen and she starts setting the stage. She pulls up her pant leg. Look, the dog next door bit me. And there was nothing there. I was smart and I went and I took a camera and I photographed her leg because I said, well, my husband's not going to be able to see it, so let me take a picture. And there was nothing there. It was like a little, like if you took your finger and went like that. Come to find out, it was her daughter's dog who was playing with her puppy and just made a little indentation. She had all these freckles all over her legs, so you couldn't see anything. Didn't matter. It was the fact that she was setting up the story, and she sued us. And later on, about a year later, she was heard saying in some salon by a mutual friend that we knew of that I'm going to sue those two for everything they got, blah, 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 blah. And she was paying this witness or whatever. In the end, I was ready for a fight, but my point of all of this was I found out during that time, I kept thinking they're going to take him and shoot him. They're going to take my pup and they're going to
Oh,
believe her and they're going to shoot him. They're going to take him and they quarantined him at our house for 14 days, which was really painful because he had to stay roped up. He couldn't wander the yard, so he didn't understand. So that was for 14 days. At least it was at the house. But he didn't do anything wrong. And that's what I was like ripped about. But I was having like almost nervous breakdowns over the thought of them taking him. Well, what happened in the past lifetime was I was the shit. I was the naughty one. Me and like two other farmers, right, were ganging up on new farmers coming in. So it was like we had this clique. We didn't want any new blood in. So the three, farmers and me or whatever, was concocting a plan to kind of like drive this person out. So what happened? Well, I lied and I said that her horse bit me. So they shot him. So in that instant, when that came up, I was like, oh my God, that's why my brain kept going, they're going to take him and shoot him. Like, who does, they don't do that in this day and age. My town doesn't do that. They don't just automatically, that would not have happened. But in my head, all that past lifetime memory was coming up. So as soon as that awareness came to me, it was like, gone. I no longer
wow.
hated her. I no longer had that anxiety. Just clean slate,
Figured it out. Yeah.
It's incredible the healing or the amount of pressure that can be lifted off when we can balance lifetimes, when we can look at the karmic stuff.
Yeah. So that actually brings me to another story that is kind of also very much so tied into this. So I recently had a client who had a parent that passed who was very negative in this life. They had a lot of tempestuous past lives of the same similar things. And what I found interesting is that the daughter was still alive, but the parent had passed, but the daughter was still experiencing the effects of these negative past lives, even though the parent had passed away. And then
Yep.
it was like an epiphany. I understood that the parent in the past life was still stuck in this negative pattern, this never ending cycle that had not been broken during her physical human experiences previous time.
Yep.
But her daughter was still experiencing these things and getting things in dreams, feelings, body stuff, illness. And
Uh-oh.
so I worked with this client to release and end this cycle. And when I first met this person, I mean, they were shrunken, sucked down, couldn't, it was like their eyes just couldn't stay awake. There was so much
Oh,
heaviness, anxiety, sadness. It really, it broke my heart. And I just wanted to help them kind of end this cycle. So we went through the motions of ending this cycle. And during this process, not only did I notice my client releasing all of this, and I mean, when I tell you it was a release, I mean, I was bawling my eyes out. They were bawling their eyes out. There
Oh,
was energy swirling there. I could see colors in the aura. I could sense the parent that passed that was also going through this. And what I thought was really beautiful in this specific case was that even with all this negativity, this anger, this anxiety, this pain, this sadness, was that at the end of the day, this client and their parent were still best friends. And this client understood that these were symptoms of a cycle, but didn't know how to break them.
yes.
And so they were just stuck in this darkness. And at the end of all this, my client was taller, happier, um, full, her eyes were fully open,
Oh,
their aura was just like completely different. And all of a sudden they went from just totally having that feeling of maybe not wanting to stay in this human experience anymore and feeling so alone
oh
and so
yeah.
stuck and so broken, to wanting to learn, asking for information, understanding their own intuition, and hearing why they had been guided there that day. And that experience I will never ever forget.
Oh,
What a lesson, that I was so privileged to be part of this person's journey
oh my
and
God.
their healing process. And I was just so in awe. And so not only does it affect us in this human life, but even before we can get to our next life, if the cycle hasn't been complete in
Yes.
the afterlife, we will create our own purgatory of that negativity.
Yes.
And
Yes. I can absolutely validate that with my own father. Because he came in. Miss Ingrid was at Chick-fil-A one time and we were talking or something, and then she had to pull the car over. She goes, your father's here. And that exactly happened, where it was not a good lifetime, his energy, everything, the things that happened to him in life, not good. And our relationship, not good. But when he passed, what she wound up doing is asking him, does he forgive himself, the whole thing. And he said yes, because he was prepared to do this lifetime again, like the same mechanics and do it again. And she says, you don't have to. If you can just understand the purpose of what happened and you can release it. And he chose to release it and go back to the light. So everything you're saying right there, absolutely yes. We don't understand that when we die, it's like, yeah, we're out of our body, but nothing's changed. We're still floating around here. If we don't know to go to the light or whatever, we're still doing the same thing. Only now we're looking for people to take the energy from, to exist, to
yeah,
do that same thing. And you're going to resonate with somebody who's got the same frequency you did when you passed, if you didn't resolve those things. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I also experienced that with my own father. And then I had to move him on.
that's right. I remember. Yeah, we were on. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Um, and I thought to myself, and I think this is a really prominent point to understand, but I understood I did not want to exit this human life and then create a purgatory for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want, yeah, I want to be able to go back to source. And if I have more lessons that I'd like to learn, or I'd like to write a new contract, or I'd like to have another human experience and learn some more, that would be where I would go, instead of having to then live in this space of my own creation and
Right.
my own punishment for myself.
Yep.
And that saying where your worst judge is yourself, and
Yeah,
your
your own
punishment.
worst enemy. Yes.
Yeah.
I've
And
said
I
that my
thought,
whole life. Yep.
wow. I don't want to be like that when I leave this human experience. I don't want to get stuck in that negativity because
Nope.
that's not helping me. That's not helping anyone else. And that
Yep.
certainly is not going to raise the collective in any way. And
No.
my job is to help raise that consciousness.
Yep. We got about, on this recording, we got about 5 more minutes. So, and then we can, if you're up for it, we can do another one.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
great. This is beautiful. I'm happy I get to hear some of your experiences this time because usually I'm yapping, blah, 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 but I enjoy your milestones. I mean, it's just awesome. So,
Thanks.
what do we want to say for this recording for the last couple of minutes?
Um, be conscious of punishing yourself
Big
and
time. Yep.
recognize your own unconscious patterns that will be holding you back and be open to the fact that sometimes we are our own villains and we have to heal those wounds before we can heal other wounds.
Yes, yes. And if we're wondering why we're always stagnating, why we're always slipping back down the mountain, we only have our thoughts to analyze and wonder why we think the way we do. I'm in that struggle right now with the whole money thing because I know better. I know better. And so I'm still working on the subconscious of limitation. And but I'm aware of it. And I'll wake up like 2 or 3 times a night and I'll hear those thoughts, which it's uncomfortable to like have broken sleep, but at the same time I'm like, aha, got you, you know. Like, here comes the fear again. Oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no. So it's like a double-edged sword. I'm always exhausted the next day, but I'm like, I can see it, so I can stop it or override it with what I need to. So,
Yeah, it's hard to um it's hard. So for me, it's I feel like this is also hard for you,
yeah.
but it's hard to grasp and hold tightly unconsciously to not worrying about money
Hmm.
because that's how you bring money in.
Yes, exactly right. Like you chase it away by worrying about it because
Yeah.
that's a lower vibration than just feeling like you already have it and not worrying about it. Yeah. And then suddenly it shows up in your life. $8 came to me this morning. Woo, but it was like, oh my God, it's coming to me. I'm not chasing it. It sounds stupid, but that's
Yeah,
what we have to learn.
I I read a book recently by Erica Russo, who is also a psychic medium and a physical medium. Wonderful, wonderful person. I had the great privilege of meeting her. Super awesome person. And I recently went home with her book and I was reading it, and there was an excerpt about how when you worry about money, you chase away money. And it's understanding that in order to have money, you have to not worry about money because then you're saying, oh, I want to bring in all this money. I want all the money all the time. I need it. I need it. I need it. But that's not attracting it to you. That's just putting it
No,
out there
no,
that, hey, this is all I think about.
right, because it's not a thought of abundance, which is what the universe will reward you with if you can understand that. It's a lower vibration to worry. Worry is a lower vibration. Fear is a lower vibration. Lack is a lower vibration. So the
Yes.
universe gives you what you are frequencying at. So if you're frequencying in fear, not having enough, then something will be taken away from you because you're telling the universe, yeah, I'm afraid I won't have this. So the universe goes, oh, you're afraid you won't have it? Okay, we'll take it away so that you're manifesting that you don't have it. See, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. But like how hard is it to like sit here in today's world, right? That is so monetarily driven, materialistic,
Yep.
and the thought of having the only way to have a successful, fruitful, abundant life is to sit here and manifest as much money and abundance as you can. And I
Hmm.
think we all get confused that abundance is money and money is abundance. That is not what abundance is. Abundance is
No,
having
no.
what you need when you need it and only that, and maybe sometimes having a little bit extra, in which case that is the time to give back.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. We all should be taught in school the laws of the universe. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. We're in the universe, right? I mean, we can't change those laws, but we better abide by them. Otherwise, we never win the game. So it's like,
Yeah.
have a class. It's not a religious thing. It's the way it is. That has nothing to do with religion or belief system. It's, if the stars are in the sky, the stars are in the sky. You didn't put them there, I didn't put them there, but they're there. So it's like,
Yeah.
get over it and start learning these things so that you can better navigate to have a better life, to win the game this time, instead of doing it over and
Yeah.
over and over. So,
And I
all
think
right,
that
let's
brings
end.
up,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no, we'll end here and then we'll go into it.
Okay. All right. So I'll see you on the flip. We'll be right back. For those of you who want to stick with us, this is great. We'll see you in a minute.